as an actor, you do your job and it's great. And then you go and you move to your next project. But the minute you wrap is like when all the work happens. The project is such even more bittersweet because you know how much work went into it.
Hello and welcome to The Awardist. I'm Kristen Baldwin from Entertainment Weekly, and I'm thrilled to be joined by the Flight Attendant star and executive producer, Kaley Cuoco. Welcome, Kaley. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
On the one hand, the flight attendant is this sort of madcap whodunit. But on the other hand, Cassie, your character, the drunk flight attendant, goes through a really emotional and poignant journey. She's coming to terms with her past and her alcoholic father and her own drinking problem. And you as the performer have to do all of that. How did you approach that as a performer?
So it's interesting. The book is very dark, very dramatic. There is nothing funny about the book. Obviously, and I loved that. And I thought this would be a great opportunity as an actor, right? But I also knew I still love to make people laugh. And I love to bring some sort of quirky to any project that I'm working on. And so when we started creating it, I said, look, I love this book. I love the story. I love this girl. But I think we need to find a different tone. And side note, if I could tell you how many times I used the word tone over the past 3 years to convince people, I was like, what's the tone of this scene? Trust me, it was a struggle, but it was challenging because we really did do something that was quite different. But it was a kind of an actor's dream. I felt like I played 10 different women. I played the fun, lovable best friend. I played the sister. I played a girl who has serious emotional trauma and alcoholic. It was a lot of up and down and crazy. And because the tone was so kind of questionable, I did so many different takes in so many different ways because I kind of didn't know where we were going to go each way. The minute it got too dark, I wanted to make sure we made someone laugh. The minute the scene was kind of funny, I wanted to see if a tear could come down and how weird that would be. Like, it was just kind of a mishmash. And because Cassie is so reactive, the world is spinning around her, right? And I, Kaley, that's kind of the type of actor I am. I'm very in the moment. I'm not a big preparer. A lot of people know that about me. You will not see me at night being like, I can't go to dinner. I'm studying. No. I'm in the moment. My cast started to get to know me too as time went on. It's like we'd go in and block these scenes. I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what's going to happen here. Just tell me where to end up. And it was such an adventure, but I felt it was appropriate because it was happening to Cassie kind of the same way it was happening to me.
I met Alex on the plane.
Hi.
Hey. We had dinner in Bangkok. We went back to his hotel.
There's no escape. I can't away. The dangerous. I'm loving it.
When I woke up in the morning, he was so alive.
It was really a puzzle and it was an adventure, and mad props to our post-production and all that, what they did, the editors, they really should be the one getting recognized for this show.
You could probably have a whole alternate cut of the series of your other take.
We said that. We're like, we could do a comedy cut. We could do we had so many different ways to go. You're so right. We've laughed about that many times. There were definitely many options.
There is such a great backstory to your involvement with this project. I love the fact that you bought the rights based on a one-line summary of the book. Can you tell us about that and what spoke to you about the premise?
That is a true story. Even though it felt like Big Bang Theory was going to last like 25 years, I had to come to the fact that it wasn't. So I my team, who I've been with a very long time, were highly suggesting to me to, find a book, or an article, or I can adapt or whatever. I wasn't really interested. And I thought, something will just kind of come to me. So one night I was actually just flipping through Amazon and I was looking at the upcoming releases and I saw The Flight Attendant, and it was actually not out yet. It was not released. And I saw the cover of the book, which they say don't judge a book by its cover, but I definitely did. And I opened, on Amazon, they'll give you like two sentences of what the book was. And it was a very vague description. It was like fun, drunk flight attendant wakes up in the wrong hotel, in the wrong country next to a dead body. And I was like, what? And I know this sounds cheesy, but I literally got like this excited heart palpitation and this chill. And I immediately called my team, and I had not read it, nothing. And I said, oh my God, did Reese Witherspoon get the rights to this book yet? And they were like, actually, no. And I said, oh my God, maybe I beat her to something. They go, well, did you read this? What is this book? We don't know. And I said, oh yeah, no, it's phenomenal. I see it as a show. Let's get on this. And of course I had not read it, but I also knew these things take a really long time. So I was like, I don't want to waste any time. So as the team started digging into what the rights would look like, I obviously read it very quickly. I loved the book. And so I was able to kind of like, let's do it. And then after a handful of months, all of a sudden I had the rights to this book, and I was like, now what the hell am I supposed to do? It's like, somebody help me.
So obviously playing somebody who is an alcoholic, who's struggling with drinking, it's a challenge. You want to be authentic, but it can go wrong really quick if you go over the top. So what kind of preparation, or, I know you said you're not a preparer, but was there research, or how did you kind of get into the right mindset to do this the right way?
So in my life, I've been around someone who really was a functioning alcoholic, who was a very, had a great job and worked and was a great friend. And this person, though, really, if they weren't drinking, it was when they were having a problem. And I kind of took that because Cassie is drinking the whole time. She's she's taking sips throughout the day. She wakes up with it. I mean, that is someone who truly is functioning. And the only time, because you can't play a character that's sloppy 24. You can't play someone, but you're seeing her drinking, you're going, oh my God. But the way that I could justify it, and the way that I thought it could be the most real, was that is actually when she's normal. The only way she can work is by having that sip. It's when that starts to be taken away. It's when she's in jail and she's, oh my God, not getting any of the alcohol and not getting those fixes, is when she starts to really, oh my God, have to face life, have to face herself. So I actually felt like the alcohol is actually what kept her normal at the surface.
And, separately, obviously, did you prepare at all or study about being a flight attendant? I assume that's a pretty challenging job.
Well, once I started, I got this book, God, it's probably 3.5 years ago now. It might even be more with COVID. I'm a little bit mixed up on our years here. But so as I realized, oh my God, we're going to do this project, I took flights a lot more seriously. I'd watch the flight attendants when I was flying. I'm like, oh my God, what are they talking about back there? I'd noticed when they took their heels off and they put their flats on. I noticed all their hair was a certain way. I thought that's interesting. Like just kind of little ways that they were, but mostly the behind the scenes. Like, are those two friends? Did they work on another airline? We also had a wonderful woman who had been a flight attendant for, I think, 30 plus years, who was on our staff as well. And the one time, she never came in to tell me anything. She was much of an observer. She was great. The only time she came in, we were doing a scene, I think it was a flashback, where I'm walking down the aisle with the champagne on a tray. And this is bringing me back to my Big Bang Theory days when I played a bartender, which was the worst. I mean, I spilled so many props, you don't even know. So now we're on a plane, and I was carrying them down like this. And she came in, she's like, I don't want to like mess with you. She goes, but we carry with one hand. And I was like, one hand? This plane is moving. And I was so nervous. So I'm like, okay. So we did it a few times. I managed to do it, but I went back to watch Video Village. I'm like, did that just look so ridiculous? Did I look as nervous as I felt? They're like, no, it didn't look bad, but that was the hardest part of the whole project, carrying the tray of drinks with one hand.
The show has such a great cast, and you and Zasha Mamet, who plays Cassie's friend, and lawyer Annie, have this great BFF chemistry, even though I believe this is your first time working together. How did that develop?
So obviously pre-COVID, I read with, I would say 90% of the people that came in for almost all the roles, and especially the Annies. We read with a lot of girls and did, we wanted chemistry reads. We wanted to see how it was going to be, and it needed to be such a real friendship and a real bond. So we had looked at we saw a lot of great actresses, and we just could not find the one, though. It was not connecting. And then the sunshine that is Zasha, I had heard she was coming in the next day. I'm like, oh my God, that is such my brain never went there. I'm like, that is so interesting. We had never met. So I, of course, wanted to read with her, and she showed up, and she tells the story. We're doing the scene together where I guess I booped her on the nose, and I was like, and I touched her face. And then she swatted my hand away, and we started touching each other, and it was almost like we were instant best friends. And then when the scene was over and they were like, oh my God, that was so great, they go, well, what have you worked on before together? I mean, obviously you know each other. And I said, you guys, we have never met. So it was very cool that everyone believed we were best friends immediately. After she came in, that was it. I said, that's Annie. Like, there's no other Annie in the world. And everyone agreed. It was instant.
And Cassie and her brother Davey, played by T.R. Knight, have a really complicated relationship. And you don't have a ton of scenes together, but the scenes you have are so powerful because you get these sort of really expansive pictures of their backstory, their lives together in these little moments. One of my favorite scenes is in the restaurant when Davey comes to confront Cassie about her drinking and, buying the gifts in secret for her nieces. And it's so moving. Can you tell us a little bit about making that scene and also just working with T.R. Knight in general?
It's so traumatic. These two kids who obviously grew up in the same home and experienced such different lives. But at the end, you do realize they actually experienced the same upbringing. They just saw things so different. Cassie's wide-eyed. My dad's so amazing, this, and this. And poor Davey, the trauma that he's gone through. And now what Cassie is realizing what he went through. It is really, really heavy stuff. It's interesting when TR had sent in a self-tape. And I was actually headed to dinner one night and I was early. And so I'm looking through the self-tapes and I said, oh my God, TR, I loved it. Oh my God, what an interesting choice. So I opened his tape and the first few lines, I just start bawling. And it was interesting because in like the 30 minutes, all the other producers started texting going, did anyone see TR's tape? We were all freaking out. And I said, that's my brother. That's it. And I knew instantly it was such a wonderful, your heart broke when he talked. And, a lot of those phone call scenes we didn't do together. I barely even worked with him, but I always remembered that moment, just that self-tape, that minute when he literally looks in the camera and he's like, Cassie, are you okay? And it just kills me every time because you see his heartbreak. We're going to experience and come across a lot of their relationship in season 2, which I'm very excited about. Yeah, that's a tragic relationship, and but they're all each other really has. So it's interesting,
This was, I believe, your first time as executive producer. So not only are you number 1 on the call sheet, you're also an EP on this big, expensive, fancy production. Were you ever like, wait a minute, what did I get myself into?
Many times. It wasn't about the EP side of it. I loved that. I love making decisions. I knew the vision of the show from the beginning, so it was so great to have this opinion and learn so much from the behind the scenes of the camera. But there were nights where I would go into my room or into my apartment in New York and literally cry going, what is this? What are we doing? The Mind Palace? Is this even going to look good? Hysterical. I'm like, oh my God, everyone's going to hate this. And then the next day I'd come back and go, wow, I really nailed that shit today. This is going to be freaking amazing. And then the next day calling my husband like, what was I thinking? They're going to hate. I was like, it was a lot of up and down emotions, because this project really lived or died with me. And I kept, well, if it's good, I'm going to get credit. But if it's bad, I'm also going to get a lot of credit. I said, I'm really scared. But what an unbelievable, I think the biggest thing that I learned was what a team effort it is. I mean, the minute as an actor, you do your job and it's great. And then you go and you move to your next project. But the minute you wrap is like when all the work happens, and people making you look good and adding all the nuances and the cuts. And that was a really cool experience. And it's really hard work and it makes you so much more, the project is even more bittersweet because you know how much work went into it.
Can you pick a favorite moment or favorite? It doesn't have to be your character, just something that really fills your heart with joy every time you see it.
When we first met with Steve Yockey, when he came and presented his idea for the show, obviously we've seen in many different projects, the ghost and the guy in the memory and this, it was like, how can we reinvent this? And Steve really came up with this idea that he called the Mind Palace, which was basically going back to where it all happened, which was the hotel room, and it's all going on in Cassie's mind. And he's I wouldn't say McKeel, or I wouldn't say that Alex was haunting her, but it was a traumatic event and that is stuck in her brain. And she keeps getting sent back to the hotel room, which we call the Mind Palace. So it's basically in her mind. And like I said, our production designer had envisioned this gorgeous place. And once you saw it on camera and how beautiful it looked, it was like another character on the call sheet, honestly.
Our own private flight.
Where are all the people, Alex? Where are the people I'm supposed to be eavesdropping on? There's no one on this plane.
I tell you, you need to relax. So why don't we just dance for a bit?
Well, what happens when we land?
We'll just have to wait the duration of the 2-hour flight, and then we'll see. And you can either grind your teeth or dance with me.
Okay, but there's no music. I don't want to... Oh my God. I hate this song.
Originally, this was sort of viewed as a limited series, but obviously it's been renewed for season 2. At what point in the process did you guys start thinking, oh, we might be able to go beyond the book here?
Yeah, it was obviously when I first envisioned it, it was definitely a one-time, let's do this book and go. But we fell so in love with these characters. And even for me, I was like, I want to see what's going to happen to Annie? Like, what's happening to Shane? Megan, where did Megan go? And we started talking about this and going, I think there's another season here. Like, I think we can keep, and once the show aired and we saw that people reacted the way they did, we thought, I think we can now come up with some new story, which is fun. We don't have the book anymore, and the book was great. And now these characters can kind of take on some other adventures, and I'm excited about that. You know, we don't have a lot of plot going on yet. We're still working all that out. I specifically was like, okay, this is not all of a sudden going to be Cassie is a super spy, FBI, like that is not what I want. We still have this, you know, little girl, crazy girl in a china shop, knocking things over, not knowing what she's doing. I think there will be a little bit of the CIA asset side kind of on the side, and she's not going to be a big part of it, but obviously she kind of, you know, she gets herself in these situations. On a personal level, we're going to be really facing the fact that she's trying to stay sober. She's going to really, really struggle with that. And she's going to realize it's not as easy as she thought.
Thank you so much for your time today. And it's been great talking to you. And we look forward to hearing more about season 2 when it's ready.
Can't wait, you guys. Thanks for your support. It means a lot.
No problem. Thank you.
Bye, guys.